Hi, this is Ashish R. Bedekar, and welcome to my podcast, The ARB Show. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Mike. Mike has over 20 years of outstanding performance in software and SaaS sales and marketing with a diverse set of technology companies. For the past 20 years, he has been the senior executive in charge of worldwide sales, business development, strategic planning for early to mid state companies based in the Silicon Valley. He is currently SVP, Enterprise and Automotive Sales at INRIX, responsible for delivering transformation data to the FinServ, real estate, mobility, and logistics industries. INRIX helps enabling of key information for drivers about road conditions, parking, and payments. Welcome to the show, Mike. Look forward to hearing your views on the top five AI applications in automotive infotainment. Maybe you can start with just a quick, introduction about yourself in case I have missed out anything, something about INREX, and then let's dive straight in. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Ashish. Great to be here and appreciate the invitation. Um, as you mentioned, I've been in the industry for a while, for the past 20 years or so. Have been very much involved in the automotive space. Um, First with a company called Cottle, which was one of the enablers for online navigation, cloud-based navigation. We didn't call it back then, cloud navigation. And throughout that time, I've been with companies such as Apple, and now with INRIX, which is also celebrating its 20th year anniversary. They were also a pioneer in delivering traffic information to vehicles to help optimize routes and navigation. So I'm glad to be coming kind of full circle and still being involved in this space. It's a really exciting time to be here, particularly with the advent of generative AI technology. In that 20 years from the early sort of stick maps in cars, helping people, navigate when there wasn't actually any traffic information that influenced the route. You could still take a route where the bridge was closed or there was lots of congestion. Then INRIX pioneered, as I said, the innovation of delivering traffic information from connected vehicles to make those routes more efficient and more less congested, obviously. And now with generative AI technology, there's a whole set of contextual information that's now being able to be surfaced to the driver beyond just a red, yellow, or green coloring of the map, or an icon that shows a crash or an accident or closure. And so that's why I'm excited to talk about that today.
Excellent. Really, really excited because, as we know, no, we connected when I was at Navtech, and location and telematics and automotive space is something which is close to my heart. So really look forward to hearing your views on AI in automotive infotainment. Over to you, Mike.
Sure, yeah. So if we think about the first, as I said, the first navigation systems, it was about route planning or route pathfinding, essentially. And it used a corpus of data, which was the map data, to essentially find the best path using math to determine that route. And then with the advent of real-time traffic, that was optimized, obviously, based on the current conditions or even future conditions, because you can use the historical profile of traffic to influence the route as well. And so that's something we pioneered at Jakarta many years ago, and help with INRIX. We partnered with them on a number of opportunities, such as Ford Sync, which is one of the first cloud-based navigation solutions. And there's been some progression in the capabilities of navigation systems. Obviously, the screens have become higher resolution, the maps have become higher resolution and more detailed. But fundamentally, the basic process and the information being delivered to the driver is the same and has been for 20 years. What's really exciting about generative AI is now there's a new mode and a new mechanism for both interacting with the navigation system. You can now do that through voice, much like you would with Siri or something else. to gain more contextual or refine the search and the type of route you might want to take. So you can now, one of the applications of Gen AI technology and navigation is, first of all, finding where you want to go. So being able to ask, find me a pizza restaurant that's near the park that has close parking, something along those lines. That's a complex search if you were to do that manually, particularly if you're driving in a car. You have to find a pizza place, you have to find the park first, you have to find a place to park. And then that voice interface and AI technology backing that up on the search side really helps optimize and make that more efficient and safer for the driver. So that's certainly one key application for generative AI technology in the vehicle.
Just on that point of using voice for navigation, I think it would also help a lot to kind of prevent the distracted driving phenomena, right? Wherein, for example, you had a long string, the only way to really search would be to look at your smartphone while driving, right? Which is a very most unsafe thing you can have. But when you have a natural language query, just ask the automotive inboard navigation thing, and you're good to go. So that's really a good insight. Yeah.
Exactly. The second application of Gen AI technology, which we're actually pioneering here at INRIX, is the use of trained models on our corpus of data to extract more contextual information about why there's a crash, why there's a slowdown, and provide more information about that. So today, as I said, you might see an icon with a crash on it, and then the red line where you're already on the street, and you know that there's a backup, but you don't know how long is this going to last. Is this typical? Is this, how long will it take to be cleared? What are the alternate routes around that? You can obviously push a button and say, give me alternate routes, but the ability for you to simply query either through through voice or by touching the screen, and then getting much more contextual information that has the historical information to say, this is a typical slowdown on a Wednesday afternoon, and you should see this cleared, in the next 20 minutes. That's the kind of contextual information that can be delivered by having this large corpus of information in the cloud that then the generative AI models that we've created search through and provide that more contextual knowledge. The analogy I draw is similar to when you might be in an airport and you see your flight's delayed, and all you see is delayed. And you land up having everyone that's on that flight lands up going up to the counter and asking, why is it delayed? They don't have much information. But as soon as the person comes on the speaker and says, your flight's delayed for 20 minutes, the crew is coming in from another flight and should be here in a few minutes, you know that you're probably going to take off. But if you hear that the plane has not taken off from Nashville yet, and it still has 3 hours to get here, and eventually the crew could be over its limit, possibly you're in for a long day. So that contextual information about knowing what's going on for your flight is similar to when you're in the car and you don't really know why there's a backup, but surfacing more contextual information is very helpful to the driver.
So on that point, in fact, I had two follow-up questions. So first was, do you also factor in weather information and kind of do a correlation? For example, when it's really raining heavily or you've got a high snow day, that kind of causes a disturbance in the traffic pattern. And if there is a prediction for maybe a heavy snowfall in the coming days, and the system you kind of also integrate with the calendar, then maybe it gives a predictive kind of alert saying that, hey, you've got an upcoming trip, but it's going to be delayed. Do you also do that kind of a predictive thing? That was the first question. And the second question is more to give context to the audience as to uh, uh, who does INRIX sell their data sets or their applications to? So then, they kind of have a context, how different is it from Google Map?
Sure,
Thanks.
yeah. So to answer the first question, yeah. So if you think about the progression of this technology, it's migrating from descriptive, which is, what's happening, to then predictive, which is, what can be done or what's going to happen in the future. And then ultimately to make recommendations, again, based on uh, the body of data that we have of cars and how they've deviated from routes and those types of things. Um, I'd say we're somewhere in the middle right now in terms of the migrating from descriptive to predictive. We now can predict, how long a backup is going to occur. We can predict the impact of weather on a route or events. So we know tomorrow there's going to be a demonstration downtown or a UN meeting and the streets are going to be blocked off. So we can recommend or predict that there's going to be a traffic slowdown on these roads. And then we're starting to move, as I said, into the recommendation, level. Now we can say, work from home tomorrow, or we can say, avoid this area and, take this bridge instead or something like that. And so that's kind of the migration we see, and we're kind of halfway in that process right now. To answer your second question, I think where this is differentiating, certainly for INRIX, is that we have this huge history of data, and on a global basis, from connected vehicles, devices, et cetera, that allow us to provide those insights so that we know that this is a typical traffic slowdown on a Friday afternoon, because we can see those patterns, we see it historically, we know that that's how the traffic behaves at this time of day, and we can then draw upon that to, again, be descriptive, but also predictive about how long that's going to last, for instance. So that's somewhat unique in that there are other companies, of course, that have some of that data, but I think we've done the best job of maintaining that huge corpus of information that allows us to draw those insights using generative AI technology. And today we serve really three primary markets. We serve the automotive market, as I mentioned. We serve enterprises, so companies that are delivering goods, that are powering other logistics platforms, that are doing site analysis based on traffic flow. That's sort of the enterprise space. And then a pretty big part of our business is the public sector. And so we work very closely with departments of transportations, cities, federal agencies as well, to help them plan and optimize traffic and signals for the roads that we drive on. And that sort of close relationship with all three of those segments that all rely on information and the ability to optimize the transit is kind of where INRIX is in the middle of.
Got it. Got it. No, in fact, that gives you, I think, just thinking aloud. So when you have got a data set of say 20 years, right? Also, it means you've got history kind of indexed, right? For example, let's say there are towns or there are cities. You have the data of how the town is growing, because as the town grows in size, you'll have more traffic, right? And areas. So, that is an excellent tool and information and insight, which I'm sure would be useful for government agencies. So, really, that's a great insight. So, really keen to know what's your next, points which you would like to share.
Yeah, no, I think, again, I think we're on an interesting path and an interesting time of technology. The compute power that's available to us is amazing and something we've never seen before in terms of its power. And I think, there have been some key enablers along the way that have allowed the kind of experiences we have today. There's the fact that now connectivity has become available in vehicles. It's fairly pervasive now. Most cars in the next 5 years will have some form of connectivity. That's the first thing. The second is much more powerful devices in the vehicle with voice interface, with higher resolution screens. We see that in vehicles today, like Tesla vehicles, where it is essentially an iPad on wheels. I mean, everything is controlled in a major big screen, and that's your primary interface to the car. And then, so connectivity, screen size, and then of course, cloud computing, which is allowed for much more powerful functions to be performed off the vehicle rather than on board. In the past, without connectivity, all the route calculation, everything had to be done on board the vehicle. And that was slower and less insightful because you didn't have as much information to draw on. Now with connectivity and cloud computing with AI technology, it's really amazing what you'll be able to deliver into the vehicle from infotainment and information point of view. So we're very excited about what the future holds there.
In fact, that brings me to a point. In the olden days, you had, map companies shipping CDs, right? And you needed to, that was used to update your onboard map systems, right? From there to kind of near real-time updates, we have come a long way. Excellent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you feel are the more other trends which you observe and would like to make a prediction for, let's say, infotainment system? What are some of the interesting AI applications or sectors which you would which you see?
Yeah. So we touched upon the use of AI technology for purely for navigation purposes, for finding where you want to go, for giving you more contextual information. But we're also seeing the emergence of in-car commerce occur, where you're able to, again, interact using tools or services like Alexa to do everything from, order food to pay for parking, and the ability to, again, query and interact with a bot or an AI interface to essentially order like you would when you pull up to a drive-through is pretty impressive. And the ability to coordinate that with your car's arrival, so your food is warm or your drink is cold, or your coffee's hot, is, I think, another interesting use of the technology going forward. And so that building those kind of interfaces between the providers or the restaurants or the pharmacies or whatever you're buying from, and then the in-car experience will be a great opportunity, I think, for companies to enable that, again, using AI technology, which will learn from your patterns. It'll learn that, what your favorites are. It'll learn, what your preferred drink is at Starbucks. And I think that's a great opportunity for vehicle manufacturers to increase the kind of services that they can offer.
Got it. Another trend which I would thinking aloud is based on the automotive servicing schedule, that combined with other factors can give some kind of a predictive thing, right? Saying that, hey, you missed a couple of services, you're going into that danger zone, and with the upcoming weather, you're not in a good spot, right? It's really time to do that. So many times it can be used for upselling of automotive services or service requests or things like that.
Exactly. I was going to actually transition from sort of the driver experience or consumer experience into, what can be enabled with AI technology in the car that makes it safer, that makes it more reliable. And that's absolutely another area where Gen AI technology is being used to improve the efficiency of how vehicles are maintained. And it definitely creates opportunities for vehicle manufacturers to generate revenue because they're able to monitor the vehicle, make recommendations, again, predict what may happen if you don't fix your tires and it's going to snow tomorrow or rain or whatever. And so those are the kind of things that personally INRIX is not involved in, but there's definitely, when the conferences I go to, a lot of discussion and presentations about how Gen AI technology is being applied to purely in the vehicle that the driver never sees, that then is communicated to, to dealers and to the manufacturers to then communicate to the driver to take some action. So that's another, exciting area of application of this technology in the vehicle. Again, enabled by, connectivity, obviously, and cloud computing with Gen AI technology. So those key enablers are now able to create those kind of solutions or experiences for the driver.
All right. So what are some other points or other trends which you see in this space?
So as far as the sort of the cockpit and infotainment experience, I think I've mentioned a few in terms of the how you can make the driving experience more kind of rewarding or valuable and informative to the driver. We touched upon the maintenance aspect of being able to analyze and then predict maintenance recommendations. I think there's also an interesting opportunity to, particularly for more recreational driving experiences, to predict or propose places to drive that you wouldn't have thought of before. So planning a journey and saying, I'd love to take a ride in my Porsche today up in the hills. Can you recommend a route? And using, again, the experience of these vehicles and where they've gone and kind of how they performed, then seeing maybe where they've stopped for lunch, essentially plan an itinerary for the driver that, again, creates more of the Porsche experience maybe for the driver that wasn't, again, you'd have to do manually. You'd have to plot that out. You'd have to do a lot of research on your own. It's sort of a tedious process as opposed to just saying, recommend a great drive through the hills today and a place to stop for lunch. And those are kind of the experiences I think that, again, vehicle manufacturers might want to enable to help drive, no pun intended, more usage of their vehicles.
Right. And another aspect which I think is the more personalization is enabled, it's going to help the customers and it's also going to help the brands. For example, like the example which you talked about Porsche, if at an aggregate level, Porsche is able to say that, hey, Mr. Brands, these are the kind of destinations which our users, are this is how they've used their cars in the last 1 year. These are the hotspots, these are the restaurants they like to go, these are the places they would like to visit. Would you like to make a advertising deal or something like that, and because it's at an aggregate level, I think it takes care of all the privacy regulation. So I think the more you think, the more ideas you get. I think we are in that space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any specific interesting use cases or automotive brands which you would like to really talk about their use case of AI, which impressed you a lot? Would you like to share any top of the line brands?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just starting to see some of those experiences and technologies be applied. I mean, as you know, the lead time from inception of an idea through planning, through development, through actually making it a car in the automotive world is quite a long process. Apart from, and we haven't really touched upon the whole use of AI for self-driving vehicles, but that's probably the first place where AI technology has shown up and is being applied today. But in terms of the consumer, or the driver experience, there's a number of companies, OEMs, I think, that are really starting to take a look at how they can implement these kind of experiences. So we know that, Stellantis, Ford, Daimler are all looking at this technology and seeing how can they enhance the experience, Porsche as well, and leverage AI technology from a driver and sort of infotainment experience. But those have yet to make it into the vehicle. They're in the kind of planning stage, in the inception stage right now. And we should see that, in the next 3 to 4 years as they make it out into the vehicles.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks, Mike. This gives a great perspective. And thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. Do subscribe, share, and like this podcast. Consider giving us a 5-star rating if you like the content. Bye for now. Talk to you soon.